Do you want others to like you because of who you are or in spite of who you are? Few words that you may have heard out and about. Well, that's just who I am. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. I'm not perfect. I'm only human. I just have a big personality. If you've come this far along the path with me, you know that all those things listed are just excuses for bad behavior and they really aren't okay. For the example of what I'm talking about here, I'm going to pull from a couple of those unforgettable couples of page and screen. I'm hoping at this late date that nothing about what I'm going to talk about is a spoiler for anyone. Study 1, The Hunger Games. Ah, that triangle between Katniss, Peeta, and Gale. Gale had a thing for Katniss when they were working together to keep food on the table for their family. So far, so good. And if she'd never gone to the Hunger Games, chances are he would have worn down her resistance to the idea of ever being romantically involved with anyone. And bam, there's another generation of minors living in the scene. Happy-ish endings all around. You know, minus the poverty and starving, love conquers all, yada yada blah blah. Except Katniss did go into the games, and her perspective on pretty much everything changed. Capital people became real to her, and she started seeing a bigger picture. That people were all more or less the same, and the differences were created by the capital in order to control the population. Gail wasn't really a fan of her new outlook, and they ended up fighting more than once over her views that capital people deserved a damn break for being who they were. He still had this idea of being involved with Katniss, though, even though it was becoming clearer and clearer that while they started from the same place, they had became two very different people with very different views on the world. Gale loved Katniss in spite of who she was. Over and over again, he kept biting back how he felt in order to try to make things work between them. Considering she was done with killing people while he was just getting started, you can see how incompatible they really were. Looking at Peeta, he went along on the same ride as Katniss, and had a better grasp on understanding who he wanted to be as he was looking at death. He also understood Katniss, forgiving her for making him think that she felt more than she actually did. It was Peeta who opened the door to them just being friends because he cared about her so much that he wanted whatever kind of relationship he could have with Katniss. Because of how much he loved her, he was willing to give his life so she could go on and have a life with Gale. That's someone who loves someone else because of who they are. Study 2, Beauty and the Beast. Gaston, Belle, and the Beast. Super straightforward here, and maybe not exactly love, but at least the willingness to get married, so I'm going with it. Gaston wants to marry Belle just because she's the prettiest girl in town, so naturally that's who he should be with. Because he's fucking Gaston, that's why. If you somehow made it to this point in your life and you haven't seen this flick, you really should. Gaston has a whole damn song praising his manly awesomeness that's kinda fun. It'll get stuck in your head for days though, so don't say I didn't warn you. He doesn't understand all the reading nonsense, doesn't really know Belle at all other than she's pretty, and she'd be oh so lucky to have a guy like him. But then, let's take a look at the Beast, who's certainly no saint. He only wants to marry Belle so he's not cursed to be a beast forever. Then he gets to know her. It's a Disney flick, so that's a montage, but still, he gets to know her and finds he loves her. In doing that, he realizes he's been a selfish asshole and sets her free. When you think about the long term what ifs here, it's pretty clear that Gaston and Belle would have had some serious issues if his scheme had gone according to plan. He wanted to be with her in spite of who she really was. As much as I hate to hammer a point here, the Beast clearly loved her because of who she was. Study 3, Gone with the Wind, Ashley, Scarlet, and Red. Ah, complexity. Ashley, well, I'm not going to say he's an asshole, but I am going to say he has a bad habit of not seeing or wanting to see and understand the motives of people around him. He was kind of a master projectionist that way. In Scarlet, he saw only the purest of motives, assuming he ever looked at anything beyond her chest. His lusting after her and feeding her hope that there was or could be something between them kept him from ever being completely happy with Melanie, as well as kept Scarlet from being able to be happy with any of her husbands or beaux. I don't care if folks don't agree with me, Ashley was a damn tease. Leading Scarlet on kept his family fed and kept himself employed and life comfortable, so he did it. Red, on the other hand, knew who Scarlet was from the word go, and he adored her for that. He supported her in every way he could as she careened from one mistake to the next until he just couldn't take her shit anymore. I think you know what my point is, so moving on. When you think about all these relationships, would you rather have a Rhett or an Ashley, a Gail or a Peta? And while I've used romantic relationships to make my case here, it's just as applicable to regular friendships. My favorite analogy for friend groups is the missing stair. Sometimes, in a group of friends, you have that one person that takes some getting used to. Maybe they spend hours and hours on the many unknown qualities of Mountain Dew Code Red and bore the crap out of everybody else. As time goes on and new people cycle into the group and others cycle out, you just know that letting conversation turn to soda or Coke or pop, depending on your region, is a bad idea. It's just because that's how they are, and you all hang out with them in spite of their code red fixation. While the example I picked is a pretty mild, innocuous one, you can see how it would get not okay so quickly by substituting a fixation for a particular brand of soda for the need to try and flirt with folks that aren't into it, or revealing a fascination with serial killers. But they've been a part of the friend group for so long you don't really even notice anymore, like the missing stair that you're just used to stepping over. If you're suddenly looking around and saying, oh shit, this is me, don't worry, you can fix this. In fact, the superpowers you've already picked up are going to be a huge help. Changing how you talk and act with people and paying attention to what they're saying will go a long way to paving over the cracks that have developed over time. People will give you a chance if you try. Oh, one note while we're still here. If looking over all this has made you stop and think about the people you spend time with, and you think you care about them in spite of who they are and not because of who they are, you might want to consider letting them go. There's a lot of people in the world that you could want to spend time with because of who they are instead.